Welcome to Woke Mental Wellness Presents Windy City Nihilism. This is a debrief episode. While some cast members are mental health professionals, nothing in this episode or series should be construed or taken as medical advice. We speak to our lived experiences. If you have concerns, please contact someone in your care community and/or seek out an appropriate professional. No podcast can or should be used as a substitute for a relationship with a doctor, therapist, or other trained professional. Please also be aware that Talkback episodes cover a wide range of topics which may be hard for some listeners. Topics include, but are not limited to, suicide, death, depression, anti-Blackness, racism, sexism, transphobia, police, state-sanctioned murder, complicated relationships, sex and sexuality, hopelessness, financial anxiety, and strong language. Please take care of yourself as you listen, and remember, hope and resistance do best in community. Welcome everyone to the Talkback episode. This was a doozy. Our folks have found their first seal. We have not broken it yet, but wow, oh wow, has the mind games begun. So let's go ahead and, as always, let's have everyone go around, introduce themselves, who you're playing, and then we can talk about recording these episodes. So let's start with, we'll go with the order that I have. So Blue.
Hi, my name is Blue. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me in the internet streets as King V, and that's King with the Y. And yeah, I think I discovered some fun things about Ruin this session, which was pretty neat. Considering I went into Ruin very bare, extremely bare bones. But yeah, excited to chat.
All right. Sin?
Hi, I am Sin, otherwise known as Romero Marcus. And things here have been also interesting, especially with the, why am I more willing to square up than the demon that I'm riding with? But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Emrys?
Hi everyone, I'm Emrys, my pronouns are they, them, and I am playing Janissa, late to the party, but jumping immediately into the fray. Is that smart? We'll find out.
It's very smart. I'm melting. I need some help. I need some milk.
And I am Cassie. I am, my pronouns are they, them. I am your host. I'm your storyteller. I am your mental health cryptid. So, and this episode, I've been your tormentor.
Thank you.
Truly, thank you.
So, we started these episodes fast and furious because we left off right as things were getting ready to pop off. So we went back into it immediately. So how is it to have found your first seal?
There are a lot of things going on here. So it's one of those, in some ways, surprising. In most ways, I'm like, yeah, like we're gonna have to deal with those traumas I put on my character sheet. Okay. But being like trying to address the said traumas by drop kicking things.
It being Ruin who is like, all right, physical shit isn't working. I think you need to talk it out. It's so funny to me because like they just want to fucking blast it. But that didn't work. And now I'm being traumatized. So yeah, I think Ruin is very much like, I knew this was going to be some Silent Hill shit. You can't just bat him away. You got to talk it out. But I'm interested to see like how Romero does that. Do you think it is easier for Romero to like have gone about this in like a physical confrontation way? Like, do they find that easier than talking it out?
I think part of it is at some point, and I guess this is part of the work of our lovely like host and chaos master here, of being like, the demons are telling you enough of the truth about how to deal with the situation to be like, okay, but you're a demon, should I be listening to you? And then in this case, the answer might be, well, I mean, maybe generally not, but in this case, maybe. Like, I don't think they think that, you know, I don't know if they're just like, you know, our master just wants to remake the world, ooh, I don't think that's necessarily true. But the idea of being like, hey, maybe you know maybe the answer to this is something that you're a little bit closer to than you realize, and you just need to lean into it. That part is true. It's one of those, there's enough of the truth in there to pick out if you're willing to pick that out, but then that means you'd have to be willing to listen to the rest of it. And there's that. There's also, I feel, a bit of commentary about how much of things that we just try to muscle through by being aggressive and militant about things when you just need to take a moment to be sad and tired. So there's that.
What?
Sin.
Commentary in one of my games?
I love that you just said that.
I'm just like, you know, of course that was the commentary from the mental health professional on the set. Of course, you know?
I'm having conversations like that with my little one now. We were literally just talking last night about how the big feelings fucking suck sometime, but it's important to sit in them and feel what you feel and then release it how you can. And I'm about to cry. It was a great conversation. My kid is 8, but it's just, you know, that is a lifelong lesson that we have to keep reminding ourselves our entire fucking lives. It's okay to sit in the hard shit and the hard feelings, and it's okay that it makes you feel like fucking shit. It's supposed to. It's a shitty feeling, but you gotta breathe and come out of it. And just let that rock for a second.
Can I get a hug?
Of course you can get a hug. Come here.
I heard you talking.
I was talking about you.
Hi.
Aww.
For the listeners, we had a guest, small one, for a moment. So always given time to the tenderness, for sure.
Ooh, this was being an inactive, like not being at the scene of the main action for much of the encounter is so nerve-wracking, because it's like no, don't let them fake you out. They're saying that thing. It's giving reform the police. Don't fall for it. Like, you know, like I'm literally here in the peanut gallery, like losing my mind and just like all the stuff that I cannot say because I'm physically not there. Oh my gosh. It was just so stressful because it was.
Did you enjoy your text message?
Like, and I'm like, I can't even text these hoes no more, because are they even looking at their phones now? Probably not. I'm not even looking at my phone, you know, like I'm just in panic mode right now. But it was just, as a player watching that scene unfold, you know, whereas my like character is like in, you know, on the way to the location and still having no goddamn clue what I'm gonna actually do when I arrive there, is another thing, you know. It's like, okay, I know folks need backup, so I'm going, but I have no idea what I'm gonna do when I get there. I just know that being there is better than not being there, somehow.
I am having some thoughts, because, you know, like the first thing that happened was like Romero being like, and as much as he could be, just being like, I'm just gonna be at peace with this. You're over here and I'm over there, and we're just going to be like chill or whatever. And then like this creature starts coming closer, and I'm like trying not to do it violence, but it's also, I feel like, a very common thing of being like, you know what? I'm just gonna let that be the thing that it is over there. and I'm gonna be over here. And as long as you don't touch me, I'm gonna be fine. And then the thing does this, and it's like, it's learning how to navigate conflict without, and trying to find the line between this is conflict that requires violence and conflict that doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, I'm just trying to leave this thing alone. It could just tell me what it wants or what have you. And it's kind of like, you kind of have to engage with it to get that information. Okay, I'm drop kicking the mirror then because this is what's happening. And and it is especially difficult to do that when, and this is like the stuff that I'm thinking in the background as I'm playing through the character. This person sounds a lot like a person who has seen me have a very valid reaction to the way that the world is treating me and has said, okay, but I need you to somehow find it within you to just be chill about these situations and calmly engage and talk things out. And I'm just like, there's been enough of that. I have lost people trying to be the chill and the calm and the peaceful person. And I have spent like 3 years of emotional labor per phone call that I have talking to y'all about like all of this nonsense and stuff that we have. I want to fight now because y'all won't leave us alone.
Real.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit too real for me at the moment, given a conversation I had just as soon as this week. I'm just like, hands, violence. And then it's kind of like, okay, so what happened to you before was valid. The thing that you're feeling right now is also very valid, but also it is not helpful right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's going to take in character to get me to the point that I'm willing to talk to the greater demon rather than trying to just like deal with this other like lesser demon.
I mean, that's fine. There may be consequences to that. Like this is the thing, right? Of like, I don't build railroads. I just don't. Like as a GM, I don't build railroads. So there's no rails to go off of. You can pop off. There is a plot, and the plot will move with or without you. And that tends to be how my games work.
And then you have like Janissa, who I'm curious about how Romero is going to respond to Janissa. Because they are both coming from a similar place. And I think it's one of those, a person who's come from a similar place is just like, hey, now is not the time for this. And you're just like, but if I don't do it now, then when am I going to?
Can we also talk about Janissa's failure early on in this session and what an absolute fucking gift that is to me?
Oh my God, it's going to be so bad. I already know. And then this one talking about texting from like, oh, it's so good to see you. No, head ass, get off my phone. Like, it's not. I will say
that text message was a direct result of your nat one.
I know. It's like, I was like, they're gonna make me talk to them people.
Speaking of demons, I can't
wait for you to get back to the school literally tomorrow.
Speaking of demons, there is one in my phone. My phone is haunted. Like and it's just one of those things, you know, it's like we were just talking about, right? Like what's going on cosmically where like the hits keep coming. It's like, I am rushing out the door. I owe Joanne one. Like I'm hustling. Homies are in trouble, probably getting consumed as we speak. And
children are fighting in the literal club.
Literally, children are throwing hands inside the gymnasium. And in the middle of all of that, this demon wants to text my phone on some, hey, I was hoping we could reconnect. Like, it's like the one straw that just will break the camel's back, and you just like, it's just that one little thing that happens in the midst of all the big things that are happening. And it's just like, thank goodness my girl has a level head, because she might have crashed out on that fear test. That might have been a full crash out moment after those like 4 things happened in a row leading up to that. Woo! And you know what's so funny? It's like when we were in character creation, I was like, you know, who do I want this character to be, right? I think I've always played characters in games who were physically a lot different from me. So they were very physically very dexterous and strong and like, you know, hardy and, you know, and not at all like, you know, just tripping over their feet all the time the way I am. And I specifically built this character to be like, no, this is someone who, you know, you could just, they trip over their feet all the time. Don't ask them to help you lift anything because it's probably going to end up dropped and broken. But for everything that they have gone through, right, they have a mental fortitude that is both ridiculously impressive, and also it is holding back the tide. Like there's a dam there, and it's a strong one. But if it were to crack, well,
I think that's going to be the tension next in these next sessions, right? Is okay, cool. You came in, you have less, like you didn't get the full effect of the greater demon's aura that's up right now. I'm interested to see what happens to Janessa when this demon turns into her.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Very interesting. I am just like, has Nessa really spent any time doing battle psychologically with her worst impulses over the past 2 and 3 years? Absolutely. How have those battles gone? We will find out. We will find out what those battles have been like, because I think for every organizer there is a point where you're like, in order to really be honest, you have to have an honest conversation about like, what are your worst impulses, right? Like especially as someone who has watched others give in to that little crack in their armor where like someone with ill intentions was able to weasel in and convince them to join the task force and convince them that meet and greets with the police are a good thing for kids to be a part of. Like having to say like, what is my weak spot? Where's the chink in my armor? And really be honest about also like, what is it gonna take? What would it take for me to say fuck it?
Yep.
I think that's definitely a conversation that Janessa has had with herself over the last 2-3 years, that she's kind of been like recovering from the big letdowns and the losses of friends that she's experienced in that time.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
And speaking of crashing out, Ruin.
I was gagged when Janessa's ex-homie fucking texted her like, not this nigga downloading an app to text her. That's
like,
insane.
Not the text now number.
We all know at least one nigga who has been on that type of time. But yeah, Ruin's
going through it right now.
Hard truths about learning that they're learning about themselves right now, because I don't even think Ruin ever like fully thought about or realized what their own biggest fear is. And so seeing that, I think, has them a little fucked up, and being unable to kind of pull themselves out of this like space. I think Ruin is not having a good time. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think one of my toxic traits as a storyteller is, if given the chance to have a player describe their own doom, like having someone describe what is like giving them a slight frame and being like, so you tell me what's happening to you.
It's so fucking fun.
Love it. I love it because I can think of dastardly things, but generally speaking, especially when you're playing with folks who are as in tune and talented as you all are, like, I I don't need to describe shit because anything I describe is never gonna hit quite as hard as making you do it to yourself.
I have to agree.
That face
I have to fucking agree. I have to agree. Because I said it and I was like, damn. I was like, fuck. Because, like, you know, I said it earlier, like, when I made Ruin, I really went in, like, bare bones with it, which is unlike how I usually play a character. I usually, like, extremely detailed. I got a playlist, Pinterest board, vision board, all that shit for them. But I was like, I want to try to go in and like let whatever they're experiencing like shape them, and like whatever, you know, like things that sound interesting to me, like mechanic wise. And like mechanic wise, their origin is pack hunter. So it is like thriving in packs. It is like thriving in helping people and aiding people. And they just can't go against that nature as much as they try to seem like some selfish person. I think they are still like definitely selfish in a lot of ways, but yeah, I think ultimately they care. Ruin is groaning. Yeah, this greater demon had me shook though. You did that one, Cassie. You did your big one.
Like, where did this come from? Like this?
No.
You know what I wasn't expecting in this game? Mechanically, right? I was expecting for Romero to be where Ruin is, and for Ruin to be where Romero is. Like
100%.
the fact they're on opposite ends of like what my expectations were. Like I was expecting the demon to be like in the area, stone cold, be like, you know, like I feed on fear. What is this dimension to a person such as myself who like literally feeds on this feeds on this emotion from other people? And for Ruin to be a smaller version of themselves, like facing a fear of being alone and failing people, while Romero's over here drop kicking people while like rehearsing Malcolm X quotes to dissociate from the moment that he's in, is the wildest separation of character things I have seen. That's such a wild thing to me.
I'm so fucking there with you, because like Ruin was at first gonna use like a projectile attack because they have that, and they were gonna use that like to fucking destroy the mirror, and then the fucking mirror Ruin was in front of them kind of talking. They're like, okay, like they started to falter, and also, you know, grappling with like, oh, I'm putting myself on the line to save Romero, who I don't even for real know like that, you know. I did not expect them to have swap places.
I'm not saying that I don't love that little subplot of being like, I wasn't supposed to care about y'all, but here I am.
Well, and I think what's also interesting here is it opens up the conversation of the fact that sometimes aggression is a form of shutdown.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talk about that, and I don't think we acknowledge that enough. And I think we're seeing a lot of it broadly right now across, like in the US and really across the world, of like, just because you are scrapping with somebody does not mean you are present. And that, like, if you are still in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, like instincts, like you are still drifting off of yourself at some point if it's too much. And so what you said, Sin, about Romero using Malcolm X quotes to like get to start fighting and dissociate, right? I think we should go, I want us to talk more about that, because I think it is so relatable, and also not talked about nearly enough, the way that we can use fighting and conflict to dissociate.
I think it's one of those things that people have spent so much time doing it that they have forgotten how to put words around it. Because I think a lot of people, when they think about fighting and stuff like that, they are aware at the time that they do it, that there is a far more complicated thing they could do that would involve them having to think through things and reason and feel and be in contact with all of their emotions. And at that moment, they're just like, I don't want to do this. So violence is what's going to come out instead. Because the amount of times growing up around like my people that I have heard, it was either I'm going to cry because I am really upset about this, or I'm going to have to fight somebody. And I chose the fight option. And I'm just like,
Yep.
oh, okay, we're here. That is a really cool thing to put words to, because in a lot of cases, when that stuff comes up, when Romero's had to be like, I'm grabbing an object until like my hand nearly bleeds, or I'm starting to rehearse quotes for things. It is it comes from a place of, I've had to practice these things for years to just get through the moments that I'm in, because whatever this is too big a thing to try to engage with right now. So I'm going to have to get through whatever moment I'm in and then come back to this later and be like, wow, that really sucked. And all of that. So it becomes a thing where so much of things, whether it's like faking a laugh or a smile or giving someone a dap that you really don't even want to, like, that you would not put out if they were on fire. You know what I mean? All of that stuff, including like, we're gonna have to drop kick the demon because like this demon said, hey, just like, why do y'all keep doing violence instead of doing things? Like, instead of just talking things out. I'm just like, I am in a literal dimension where the sky is bleeding. We don't have time for this.
I don't think I've ever been able to put words to that till now.
And the times that those things come up in the game are always times when you just go, someone is trying to reach you or influence you in some kind of way. How do you ignore that and do the thing so that you set your mind on doing anyway? It's always in that context. It is always in that context. And this is where Romero goes, I remember something someone nice said to me. I remember Malcolm X quotes. I remember scenes from like the Gladiator movie. Whatever we have to do to send ourselves from the moment we're in to, I guess theoretically when we're sitting at the coffee shop and then suddenly like people are just like crying in the club because they're not in fight or flight anymore and they don't have anything else to grab onto to dissociate from the moment. And that's also probably going to be a thing at some point.
And see me, I'm a big old crybaby. I cry for everything. So I just find it's really interesting, and I think it's one of those things where, like your nervous system makes a choice for you in the moment. And it's always interesting to see what choice someone's nervous system makes, right? Because my nervous system is just like, we're gonna just cry. We're emotionally flooded right now, so it's waterworks time, right? But so something for me is having to learn how to make two choices, right? How to, right, still speak even if I'm boo-hoo-hooing, right? Still act even if I am, boo-hoo-hooing in a moment, right? Not making the choice to emotionally express myself be the only choice that is available to me in that moment. And I think that is a hard thing for, I would just say a lot of people, but I think it's a social message where that if you are emotionally expressive, you have somehow lost the plot. Nothing you do from that point is valid anymore, or it can't be trusted, or it's not legitimate because you are emotionally, there's this pressure to only make one choice, and it better not be the emotionally expressive one, or else whatever you do after is now circumspect.
I mean, drag me, friend. Go ahead and drag me. It's fine.
I mean, it's real, right? It's very real. I think that happens all the time, where people are like, oh, you're crying, so you're not thinking clearly, right? And it's like, no, that's not what that means, that's not what that means at all. But that's the way that it's treated. So then we are learning to hold back our emotional response to situations when that's some of the most valuable information that we could get from ourselves about what we need to do.
I mean, it's a way of mental colonization, right? Of like, make you hate and pull away from yourself and what you know to be happening and your feelings, because feelings, like the cold distance, has been privileged by society. And then now that that's the gold standard, it makes you pull away from yourself and your emotions and stop listening to yourself, which then makes you easier to manipulate. Because if you don't doubt yourself, then if you doubt yourself, then you're going to look for external cues and leadership.
Yep.
And so it's also one of those things of this particular seal, this particular battle is very mental. And, you know, y'all might be able to pummel your way through it. But in order to pummel your way through it, you're going to have to keep a bearing on your mind long enough to do so. The combo of demons I'm using in this are very specifically not fight guys, but they're going to have a lot of stuff that will make you turn inward so that you're basically stuck.
And I think that's a big part of just everything that we're going through in the world right now is, right, like, you have to be able to remain grounded. And being grounded doesn't just mean calm, right? Being grounded doesn't just mean that you are stoic. Being grounded means that you are attuned, right, to the moment. You're attuned to yourself, and that you are getting all of the information and assessing it in a way that allows you to act with intention rather than just reacting, right, from that nervous system response. And I think that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. Sometimes the most grounded thing you can do is sob.
Yep. It really is, right? It really, really is. Because the clarity that comes after a good, right, like, cry,
oh my gosh,
is unmatched, right? When you just let your nervous system vent itself and you let your mind organize everything that's coming through it, and you're able to just see thoughts, images, sensations without putting any judgment on them and just allowing them to pass, you can realize things that you would not have realized otherwise, right? When you just let yourself see and experience your nervous system's reaction to a situation, it can bring so much clarity. And I think we're taught to repress that to the point that we miss out on so much important information, right? Our vibe checks, they're not accurate anymore, right? Because we've been cutting off the vibes, or dampening the vibes, or repressing the vibes,
or running away from them.
Right?
Like, I think that one of the things that pisses me off so bad about pop psychology and the overuse of therapy language, and the like elite capture of this language, is that, like, folks use it to shut down conversations instead of processing within themselves and being willing to face something, right? And so, like, yeah, it's not always the time, but I've seen so many times in chats or, you know, talking with folks, people, you know, something will come back and they'll be like, hey, can you not mention that? It makes me uncomfortable. And sometimes it'll even come up when facilitating group, and it's like, this is the space to be uncomfortable. Like, we have to have discernment and the ability to sit with discomfort versus shutting down community because you're running away from any discomfort, and the ability to have that conversation of, like, when is it actually dangerous and we need to look at other methods, and when is it a situation to, like, when is it a collective issue where we circle around you and build you up, and when is a situation where what you're actually doing is prioritizing yourself and your comfort in a very white supremacy culture way. And that also takes a lot of grounding and being willing to sit with emotions to parse out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think remembering how much our emotions influence our choices is so important, right? Because I think a lot of what leads people to selling out, right, or giving up is not some malicious ulterior motive that was always there from the start. I think a lot of the time, it's someone who has just become so disillusioned, so sad, so tired, so frustrated, so desperate for something that looks like the right answer. And that's the opportunity that some unscrupulous entity is able to capitalize on, right? That very human weakness, a desire to say, here is a solution we are giving you. And because you're so exhausted, because you're so, worn out, because you're so disillusioned and frustrated, you're not able to see it for what it is, right? You're not able to see the okie dokie when it's being handed to you.
Yeah.
And so emotional attunement when you're doing difficult work is so important. It's so important. It can't be either or. It has to be both and.
And so often we've created a society that ensures people don't have the capacity to attune to themselves. They get overwhelmed and say, that's too much of a trigger. And it, in some really real ways, like, the reason in therapy we work on decreasing trigger levels is because we can't always run from things. And when you yourself being in silence with yourself is the trigger, then that's a really serious capacity issue for being able to be a whole person.
That's very, very real.
I think in some cases, it's both the not being able to sit in silence with yourself, and then in other cases, not being able to take the things that you learned in silence and share it with anyone when it's appropriate to. And I think there's also, I guess it's kind of like a sub thing. It's like a subplot happening here. A lot of the things, it's a lot like talking to you. And I'm going to say Cassie here because they're who I talk to the most when I'm not here. It's a lot like talking to Cassie about things and then talking to other people generally about things. It could be the exact same subject and the exact same words could be said. If Cassie says them, I'm going to be chill and probably think about it for a second, search my feelings about it, take a moment to introspect. If anybody else said those same things to me or the same concepts, I'd probably be like, 1, you don't know me, and 2, you don't know me like that. Silence yourself immediately. And there's something to be said about, for Romero in this game, how many things he runs into where someone says something and it is very likely a very real thing that he needs to hear, but not being said, but depending on the person that he says it, that says it to him, it's a thing that he can or cannot hear. I think in this case, for example, if Janissa had said any of the things that the demon had said, he would have listened. But because the demon said it first, he decided that the answer was throwing hands. There's something going on there because that's the third time that this has happened in the course of 2 days.
It's going to be interesting.
That's not going to be a fun takeaway. If y'all are listening to this program at home, that's a takeaway that we're going to have to deal with, which is sometimes, unfortunately, especially when it comes to things like the language around mental health and the way that people take the words of therapists and use them in everyday conversations. Not that they should, but they do. Some of that stuff is probably very valid, but for some of y'all, like just the way that you've seen it weaponized has triggered your fight response immediately to anyone who says it to you, even if you know, like on an intuitive level, that they're right. We're going to have to unpack that whole baggage claim.
It's the whole damn flight. Shit.
Yeah, at being able to accept the message without the messenger part is a doozy. And then you have to, because then it's like, okay, you have to suss out, is this a broken clock moment? Right? Is this person weaponizing what they're saying against me? Is this
Do they have actual good intentions?
Exactly. That was exactly the next thing I was going to say. Does this person have ulterior motive where they're feeding me something that they know is true and irrefutable, so that they can then hand me something that's absolute bullshit immediately right after? Right. And so I think sometimes that's another good reason to have that attunement and that groundedness, is that one, you don't be giving credit to people that you absolutely do not need to be giving credit to, right? And two, so that you can take something and say, I'm gonna hold this, I'm gonna take it to the group chat, I'm gonna take it to the homies, I'm gonna take it somewhere else, and I'm gonna evaluate this. And if it's
marinate,
right, if it's legitimate, I'll probably find someone who I trust giving me something similar. And I don't have to take it from this person who I know that I should not trust. Like, I don't have to reevaluate my whole concept of this very untrustworthy person just because they said one correct thing one time. And I definitely think that's a pitfall a lot of people are falling into.
It's a pitfall half the country fell into recently.
I mean, and you know something, like
continues.
That's some tea right there. Like, take that to your group chat. And your group chat is not your Blue Sky account. Please take that to the group chat and talk with them about
your
that.
Close and trusted friends, please.
And so, okay, I'm going to use an example. So bear with me, y'all. Let's go down a rabbit hole.
Okay. Well.
The penny is a terrible idea. The penny has cost more than a penny to print for like decades, like almost 100 years at this point. Like, the penny is a bad fucking piece of currency. We should not be printing them. One of the things that Trump is trying to do is to stop printing the penny. This is a perfect example for this conversation, right? So let's talk about those. Let's talk about those evaluation criteria, right? Because, oh gosh, the broken clock is correct, right? Like, we should have stopped printing pennies ages ago. But does he have good intentions? No. Is there some alternative motive? Yes, because if he can successfully stop printing the penny, which is an act of Congress, right? There is a law through Congress that says that, like, the executive branch, who controls the treasury and everything, has to print a sufficient amount of pennies for the need, which is vague on its own right? But if he can justify that, well, it says a sufficient amount, it costs us more to print than it's actually worth, and so 0 is an amount, and thus I can print 0. That can then be used for precedent for the executive branch to follow none of Congress's laws, right? And so this is what we're talking about, of like, you gotta be careful, and you gotta be able to attune and evaluate, because this stuff gets complicated. And something as common sense as, yeah, it costs $4 cents to print a penny. Maybe we shouldn't be losing millions of dollars printing fucking pennies. But because of the way that this system is set up, it has to come from Congress. And so that too, like, that's a big macro version of what of what's going on in the game right now, that we've been talking about with Romero and like, who's the messenger? Thank you for entertaining my rabbit hole.
Who's gonna solve the problems? But I think what you're saying, is the same thing. Like I was saying, being gagged in the, as a player because my character is not in a scene, you have this demon saying, oh, we're not trying to destroy the world, right? We're just trying to remake the world. And it's like,
into what?
But right? Like, and so someone's saying like, oh, like there's this problem. We all agree that there's this problem. We're just trying to fix it. And people being like, oh, well, I mean, you got to give them credit because they're trying to fix it. And it's like, yeah, but the solution that they're trying to give is utter destruction of everything that we hold dear, right? So it's like, just because we agree that there's an issue as things are right now, that does not mean that I agree that you're the person or that I trust you to have any kind of say in what comes next, right? Like, agreeing on a basic premise does not make us besties. And I think a lot of folks really have a hard time with that notion. Like, you and your worst enemy can both agree that the sky is blue. That does not make that person your friend. Mm-hmm. Discernment has to go further than that.
And while we're talking about that, and I think kind of tying into some other stuff, discernment requires practice, for one. And I think in an ideal world, it would also be kind of like an after effect of being in community with good people. Right?
Yep.
Because, like when we talk about things like discernment or intuition, I think people think of it as just like this magical thing that just comes out of nowhere. But, at its base level, it's pattern recognition. If you're exposed to like a lot of different patterns for things, it's easier for you to look at stuff and be like, I don't know about this. And this is why, being in community with good people and also talking to them about the experiences that you have is important. I had a friend who was feeling pretty rough about some things that had happened recently and was talking about them. And I'm just like, hey, so it sounds like there was like a breakdown in communication here. Did people ask you these questions? Did people like communicate things as they were like issues as they were developing? Did they let you know that things were wrong? Did they let you know that things were up? And they had not, in the process of talking to all of these various people about stuff, no one had literally said to them any of the things that I was saying to them, which was just like, did anybody check in with you about any of the things while we're in the middle of stuff? And like that whole being able to like talk to your peers and your friends and the people that you trust about the world and that's happening around you. It's also, I think, a very important and overlooked part of like developing that intuition and discernment about things. I think people just like, not anybody here, but I think people just expect discernment to come out of nowhere or for you to just know that something is wrong in a world that constantly like gives you the most distorted version of everything. And it's kind of like, where are you supposed to get that from?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How are you supposed to have discernment when you are taught to hate yourself and not trust yourself?
That's why you gotta have community.
Yep.
And you gotta have people that you trust. People that you trust to say yes to, people who you trust to say no to, and people who you trust to say yes and no to you. So that when you're out of pocket or they're out of pocket, you can call each other in and be like, hey. But if you can't trust anyone around you, you get sold a bill of goods and have no idea.
As I've learned over the past few years, I think in some cases, trusting people to say no to me is probably more important than saying yes, and like at this point.
Mm-hmm.
especially as a dude adjacent person, you know, just being like the people who are just like, hey there, friend, respectfully, you are fucking up, fix it. Like, just the people who can say that to you and that you have a bond enough with to have them say that to you are like pure gold at this point in human history, I feel, because a lot of the things that I see going like wrong and rampant in the world are because they don't have people who just like looked at them and just like, absolutely the fuck not. What do you mean?
Ooh.
Yep. Cough, cough, Kanye, cough, cough.
Let's not open that can of worms.
On that note, we do not have enough time in the world, so we gon'
The collective response.
I am so sorry. I couldn't help myself. So that's
Cough, cough, Drake at this point.
No, please.
Oh God. All right. So,
Ooh, buddy.
oh God. You know, if I had more time, I'd have called y'all up and been like, "Hey, Super Bowl Talkback special show," but nah.
I mean, dude,
anyway,
like, listen, if we want to throw that in as like a bonus piece of content, hey, if you send us, hey, y'all, listen, if you send us money, we will just go ahead and like throw that in as an episode for free. How about that?
Yeah.
oh my God, this is gonna be so. The Super Bowl, it is possible that there might be a different Super Bowl by the time this comes out, so that's hilarious. Hopefully not. But what I will say is, thank y'all. As always, it is so wonderful getting to play with y'all, and it helps my brain process all the shit that is happening, even though like this episode, like, I mean, yeah, this episode especially is very heavy. Like, these episodes are very heavy, and but sometimes that's what we need in order to do what we're saying and attune, and to be able to both take a break and pay attention, right? Like, to come back and to reckon with ourselves and the people in our lives. So thank you all for being here and playing this. Thank you, listeners, for being here and listening and supporting. So let's go ahead and go around, do some outros, and we'll get y'all on your way. So let's do it in reverse. Emrys.
Hi, y'all. This is Emrys. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me on Tumblr, The Dragon Emblist on Tumblr. You can find me on Twitch if I ever decide to stream. And, you know, the streets are saying that I might get Blue Sky, so maybe, possibly, you could see me over there at some point.
Do it. Sin.
Hi, my name is Sin, your resident he, they of the group, playing Romero Marcus in this campaign. You can find me as Sinziak on Twitch and on Blue Sky and on YouTube, where I occasionally just post the things and play the games and talk to y'all about things I am deleting from my computer.
Hi y'all. It's been very real. I've been blue. I hope to always be blue in the future. I played mainly Ruin today. Alexis, I think. Yeah, I forgot. Not that I forgot,
Alexis
but
is coming.
Ruin shit was
I
just
promise.
like, ooh. So yeah. But it's been real. You can catch me in the internet street as King V and as King with a Y, and anywhere Batty Bards is.
And I'm Cassie. I'm your storyteller here on Woke Mental Wellness. I am Mental Lamia on Twitch. I am Intersection CCH on Blue Sky, and I'm Intersections LLC on Instagram, because what the fuck is branding? Also Woke Mental Wellness on Patreon and Ko-fi, because, you know, it takes money to get this shit going. So yes, but thank you all. Please, it's rough out there. Remember to take care of yourselves, your community. Be kind, be compassionate, but also take no shit. And learn discernment, please. Please. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to Woke Mental Wellness Presents Windy City Nihilism, a 12 Inner Demons homebrew podcast. This podcast has been made possible in part thanks to a grant from Diversity Saves. Episodes are edited by Marissa Ewing of Hemlock Creek Productions. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review and tell your friends. If you want to help financially, you can visit the Woke Mental Wellness Ko-Fi listed in the show notes. Take care, and remember, hope and resistance do best in community.